Nestled along Ghana's Gold Coast, you'll find one of West Africa's most profound historical experiences. Here, you'll find two of the continent's most notorious slave castles, each bearing witness to the sinister history of the Atlantic slave trade. In this video, join me as I take you on a whirlwind tour of Ghana's infamous slave coast to learn more about this economic machine that defined Africa's coastline for centuries. This is Elmina and Cape Coast, Ghana.
Well, good morning from Elmina, Ghana. You can see tons of activity here out on the water this morning. There's a little river right beside my hotel. And there's the old Elmina Castle, massive slave trading fort from way back in the day, I think 16th century. It's a pretty incredible place, so quite beautiful. It's a very small town. And this is the little bridge. I guess that's why they call it the bridge house here. But yeah, very small, but tons of history here. There's an old fort just behind, out of view there, and this is the main castle right here. So looking forward to poking around here a little bit before heading up the road to Cape Coast, about 15 minutes away. Between the two cities, tons of slave trading history here, sad history on the Gold Coast of Africa. And really cool local boats here, as you can see, these almost canoes, pirogues flying in the waters, people going out to start their day of fishing and so forth. So really interesting that this building, it's not repurposed, it's just a museum, so its sad history is not forgotten. All right, sitting down to my hotel breakfast here, and I got some toast, eggs, a hot dog, and a little bit of coffee with milk.
Hello. How are you doing, friends and family? Hope you are all doing good. Yeah, big up to everyone. This is a small artwork I used to do. Yeah, this my name and my telephone number. If you want some of my artwork, you can call this number. I need more friends and more family. Come together, let's work together.
Well, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Yes,
too.
thank you for sharing with us. Thank you.
Respect everyone.
So this here is my comfortable little hotel right across from the fort, so pretty decent. Coconut Grove Bridge House if you're looking for a place to stay. And again, this runs about 60 USD with tax, so give you breakfast overlooking the castle, so pretty decent location and a pretty beautiful building. It's not a bad place to stay. This bridge has seen better days. Oh my goodness. Gotta be careful here. Yeah, how are you doing?
Fine.
Oh, that's very good. I come from Canada.
Canada.
Yeah. I gotta be careful here though, eh?
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Elmina, Ghana. This here is the Elmina Castle, also called the Castelo São Jorge de Elmina, built by the Portuguese back in 1482, so it is extremely old. The fort was then taken over by the Dutch in 1637 and controlled all the way through until the 1800s, when it was eventually transferred to British rule here in what is now Ghana. And then they received their independence, of course, in the 1950s. But this building is old. It is the oldest European building south of the Sahara Desert on planet Earth. So pretty incredible. Again, it's a pretty small town here in Ghana, so you wouldn't expect to find something so notable here, I suppose. So you can see it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. 1979, St. George's Castle, or Castelo São Jorge de Elmina. Yeah, pretty incredible. Tons of history here on the Gold Coast. And here's someone's grave just lying right here. And they definitely have not taken time to upkeep this one, or renovate it or restore it. Probably a very hated figure, of course. Some slave owner. Adela Nicole. Yeah, I can't make it out. It's just too broken up. So they have an on-site restaurant as well. I didn't expect that. Washrooms. There's a moat. So I took a little walk from the castle down here to the ocean front. And this is all the Gulf of Guinea, kind of winding its way towards the Nigerian coast, and then it'll curve down south towards South Africa. But pretty enjoyable views just walking along this kind of breakwater that they built along the coastline. This side is a lot more exposed, I guess, to the water and so forth, so it's a lot moldier and more weathered. Just a behemoth of a building, and I'm looking forward to checking out the Cape Coast Castle just about 10 kilometers further down. Right there on the left, that's the fort, and I believe that was the administrative center, of course, for the region. Pretty incredible, and a pretty decent vantage point overlooking the surrounding water. So yeah, the Dutch and the Portuguese basically had their hands all over this region. It's interesting though, because the Dutch, none of the colonies really ever stuck, I don't think, apart from Indonesia, places like Suriname and all that. So I figured it's not too far out of the way just to climb the hill to check out the fort. So that's what I'm gonna do. Won't be able to check out any of the interiors, unfortunately. I might do the Cape Coast Castle though. I guess we'll have to see, but time is of short supply when you're on a 48-hour visa, and I have to see Accra yet, so kind of a rushed little tour through here, but it is what it is. So I just did some research, and the fort over here at the top of the hill is called Fort Conradsburg, and it was actually built by the Dutch as a military fortification. So I don't think it served as the administrative center or anything like that, but it was a strategic vantage point, at least over the surrounding coastline. So definitely a little bit of a slog to get up the hill here. Looks like people are drying their clothes right there. It smells like fish in the air here, so there must be a lot of fishing. Pretty cute town though, it's really chill, and a ton of history, wow. So I'm pretty sure there's an admission fee here too, and I just don't have the time, or otherwise I would definitely pay. But I feel so rushed. This 48-hour visa is probably not worth it, but works best for my schedule and purposes on this trip at least. So admission is on a donation basis, but I honestly just don't have the time to explore the fort, so I gotta make it up to Cape Coast and head to Accra. Otherwise I'm not gonna be able to see the capital, and I guess that would be my priority. So I think I'll pay the admission over at Cape Coast though, just because I wanna see the interior of at least one, but I can't get too carried away, unfortunately. So just getting ready to check out of the hotel here. And again, really good location. Definitely check this Coconut Grove Ridge House if you're in the area here in Elmina, because it is perfectly situated. So you have a full-on view of the really bustling fishing harbor right here, and of the slave castle right across the way. So definitely a decent location. So pretty interesting flags on these boats. As you can see here, this one's just randomly flying the Chad, Romania flag. I think we've established it's probably Chad. These ones look like Taiwan. And there's some Swedish flags over there. So they just do it, I guess, to identify their boats. But yeah, pretty interesting. Definitely colorful fishing fleet. There's a Japanese flag down there, Greece. So they just grab a flag to identify their boat. So kind of smart, but kind of seems more international maybe than it is. From here, I just got a taxi being arranged right now that it's going to take me about 10 kilometers further east here towards Cape Coast, which is kind of along the coastline there, far in the distance. All right, picking up my bags and hitting the road to Cape Coast. All right, heading to the taxi. So I believe it's going to be like 30, maybe 40, I don't know exactly, but $3 or $4 to get down there. It's about 20 minutes. Getting in a taxi. Thank you. Yeah. Arrived here at the Cape Coast Castle. It's getting late in the day though. I gotta kind of pick up the speed here, but I'm gonna definitely head inside and check this one out. This is the largest former slave trading post on the coast of Africa, so pretty nasty history here, but important to preserve it. So there's a church right across the way here, and the fort is right over here, so I'm gonna go get my ticket and check it out. All right, so I guess the ticket office is right here through this archway. 80 cedis admission, or about 8 Canadian dollars. Let's say $6 US. Pretty massive building, as you can see. And this is about 2 hours, 2.5, maybe 3 hours even, depending on the traffic, out from Accra. So easy day trip. If you're in Accra and you flew in there and you want to explore a bit more of Ghana, it's right here for you to explore. All right, so one of the slave dungeons. So this is where they would store the slaves, basically, before they were shipped out of here.
When you carefully look on the ground, these are supposed to be the original floor of the dungeon, not this. And so on top of the original floor, all these are human feces, blood, vomit, covering the original floor of the dungeon. We are not standing on the original floor. These are the decomposed waste of the captives covering the original floor.
So you can see all of these wreaths that have been laid here by people in memory of those who lost their lives. And they've even put a little indigenous shrine here, I guess, because this was built on an indigenous holy site, I guess. But pretty crazy history here. Really somber to see it firsthand. It's very similar to Gorée Island in Senegal. Massive courtyard. Huge amount of cannonballs here too. So as you can see, the size of this place is just incomprehensible. So just a massive, massive revolving door of slaves moving in and out of here. Largest slave trading port in Africa. Massive. So again, this was built in the 1600s by the Swedish, actually. It was a Swedish fort before the, I guess, Portuguese took over. But originally built by the Swedes, which I cannot fathom the Swedes on any level being okay with slavery. But I guess times were different back then. So if this place couldn't get any darker, this is a dungeon basically that was used to punish women who would not submit sexually to their captors. So pretty disgusting history here, but yeah, this is the little cell basically where any woman who wouldn't give in was sent here for punishment. So beaten to a pulp and basically dropped off in this cell, which was then sealed with a massive, massive gate that's no longer there. But wow, dark history. And female slave dungeons. So this is the door of no return right here. So this is the last place that the slaves would pass through before being boarded onto the vessels, right there on the water. So very symbolic, the door of return basically. So when they brought the descendants of former slaves back here to kind of commemorate the return to Africa, going in the opposite direction of the door of no return. So pretty interesting. Kind of dark through here, but heading back to the courtyard now. And that is looking back towards the door of no return right there through that pathway. So it is a pretty huge building and the courtyard is a substantial size. So unfortunately, my battery died just as we were heading up here to the kind of viewpoint over the coastline, which was really outstanding. Yeah, really good tour. Definitely recommend it. And they even have an on-site restaurant here that looked pretty good and some cheap drinks. So yeah, not a bad place to explore despite its sordid, sad history. And so I just asked, and you are allowed to kind of venture around on your own afterwards, so that's good. So I can actually show you this amazing view that I didn't get to show you with my camera dying pretty abruptly. I've just been filming so much here. It's just a pretty fascinating place. So again, built by the Swedes, is actually a wooden fort back in its early days. First settled by the Portuguese though, and they called this whole area Cabo Corso, which was later corrupted to be Cape Coast, but Cabo Corso meaning the short cape. But pretty fascinating history. And then the Swedish fort was built in the mid-1600s, I believe, and then conquered by Britain that same century, I believe. Maclean's Hall. So this is where they actually sold the slaves. It was in this meeting room. They would actually barter and negotiate to buy the slaves. Pretty dark history. You can see the cathedral right over there. And I believe this is the restaurant, this building right here in the center of this smaller courtyard, and some artisanal stalls and so forth. So I guess they've separated the commercialism from the rest. Definitely worth poking around this castle. It's just a massive, massive complex. So I'm gonna go check out the view from right over here. This is right about where my camera died, so I didn't quite get the footage I wanted here, but I'm so glad they let you wander on your own too, that I'm able to come back up here. A pretty amazing view of the coastline here, looking towards Elmina, where I was earlier today. Yeah, just gorgeous. Gold Coast of Africa. So on a different note, this is the city of Cape Coast, so not much. It's definitely small. Nowhere near the size of Accra, but has a little downtown core here, but it's pretty much centered around this massive, massive fort. So it's nice to see construction materials out here as well. So it tells you that they're actually using the admission fees for something useful and taking the time to restore this place and make sure it doesn't fall apart over the centuries. Oh, it is so hot though. I am just drenched. The heat here just saps your entire body of energy. All of the moisture in your body is just gone, so you have to stay hydrated here, folks, if you come. It's life or death type stuff, so be careful. All right, one last look at the courtyard here. And I'm saying goodbye to the Cape Coast Castle. I'm gonna go try to get a view of it from the outside as well, but poignant place, definitely to learn about the sad history here, and so many cannonballs just left here, so wow, I don't think I've seen many real cannonballs just lying around, but that's pretty incredible stuff. So definitely worth checking out the Cape Coast Castle. Again, the largest slave trading port in Africa, so plenty of dark history here, but it's actually in really good condition. And the free tour, it's basically a guided tour included with your admission. So some places charge admission plus the tour fee, so it's not a bad deal. So this is the Anglican church, I believe, by the looks of it. Makes sense. Built kind of right across from the fort. In any case, I got to head about 600 meters down the road here to the bus terminal, which is really a Ford transit terminal. They call them Fords, basically, to take you out to Accra for 70 cedis, so $7 Canadian or about $5 and change USD, so not bad at all. Really cool to finally make it down here to some of the really historic slave trading historical points here in Africa. I've taught about this in my high school classes for years and years and years. Really, really interesting to see it firsthand here live in the flesh, this history. Sad as it may be, just a pretty interesting place though. So that's pretty much it from Cape Coast, Ghana. So plenty of tourist infrastructure here. A lot of souvenir stalls, so definitely has a tourism vibe to it here. Very similar to kind of Caribbean vibes here, I'd say. All right, so if you're confused or curious about the system here in Ghana, so this is basically a Ford station. They call these Fords, and they're basically just Fords. Ford Transits, I believe, that will take me to Accra. 70 cities, $7 Canadian, $5.25, let's say, US, so pretty inexpensive. I think they hold about, I don't know, I think 11 passengers maybe, I don't know exactly, but yeah. It's pretty much the lay of the land here, and this will get me there in about 2 hours to 3 hours, somewhere in there depending on the traffic, but it's Sunday today, so it shouldn't be too bad. So prices are kind of in line with Sierra Leone-ish, about 35 cents for a bottle of water, so really cheap, 3.5 cedis. Definitely a cheaper country than Cote d'Ivoire. And I got the front seat on this trip, so I'm making myself at home here. Whew. 2 people to go before this thing's filled and we'll hit the road. All right, we are officially pulling out of Cape Coast right now and heading to Accra. Got a front seat view too, so it's not bad. Just arrived here in the Accra terminal of this minivan company and just ordering an Uber now to head to my hotel. So as you can see, sun is setting, day is pretty much over. So I'm definitely gonna hit the ground running tomorrow at about 7 a.m. just to fit as much in as I can before I have to head to the Togo border at about 1 p.m. just to give myself a buffer to make it there before 6 p.m. when it closes, when my deadline is to leave the country. But what a whirlwind tour of Ghana. It continues here onto the hotel. So I just checked into Frankie's Rooms and Meals, I think it's called, or something along those lines. Frankie's Hotel basically has AC. It's actually pretty plush and comfortable. Bed looks pretty decent. Pretty expensive though. This was 110 Canadian dollars for the night, but it includes breakfast, which I heard is pretty substantial, so not bad. I wanted something safe and secure that I could store my stuff and leave the hotel without worrying, so I think that fits the bill. Well, this is Oxford Street here in Accra. This is basically the nightlife center of the city. And there are plenty of restaurants and bars and so forth around here. A lot of major international banks, supermarkets, this massive pharmacy. So plenty going on down here. I'm gonna head to ShopRite. Haven't been to one of those since South Africa. So there's one right next door here. I'm gonna see what they have in terms of maybe deli food. We'll find out. So I'm not sure how safe it is out here. It looks pretty safe. Grilling some meat on the street and it smells so good. So I'm a bit surprised. First place I've seen ShopRite, basically north of Southern Africa. So huge South African influence here, it seems. There's braai and chutney and everything else that you find in South Africa. I'm very tempted to stock up on this while I'm in the area because it's really hard to find these kind of ingredients in Canada, so I might just do that. So one thing I'm really surprised by so far is just how cheap food is here. You can get things for like 10 or 20 cents depending on what it is, so I've never seen prices this low since like India. It's really, really cheap here. And this is the place where I'm staying right here, Frankie's Hotel. And they even have a shawarma stand out front and a full restaurant. Pretty well located right here on Oxford Street. So just want to give you a sense of how much you can buy for your money here. So I got this tomato eggplant dish, jollof rice, a little chocolate bar, an entire pineapple, Simba Miss Balls chutney flavored chips, a papaya, a Coke Zero, and 2 bottles of water, and a can of chakalaka or some stew or something for just over $5 Canadian or like $3.50 USD. Incredibly cheap here. All right, well, I'm trying out what I thought was eggplant and tomato, but I think I misread the sign. It's eggs and tomato. It's like a really spicy tomato sauce, like really spicy, with a bunch of basically scrambled eggs mixed into them. So anyway, this is what it looks like. It's definitely, I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like a mapo tofu, if you ever had that Chinese dish. Very spicy, but that is not a winner. I would not order that again. Next up is the jollof rice. I don't know if you've had jollof rice before, but it's a very, very famous West African dish. It's similar to like tiboudien in Senegal, but it's not fish-based. This one is sausage-based, but here we go. Definitely flavorful. It's like a really interesting fried rice. Really interesting flavor profile. I think it's the palm oil that's doing something there, but yeah, not bad. Never had jollof rice. I've heard a ton about it though, so that's what it looks like, and that's where it goes. Wow.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to click the bell icon to be notified when new episodes are posted. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video.